everybody, it's Joe the Naturalist, and I'm spending Christmas Eve here at Barnegat Light. We're enjoying the wonderful wildlife and history that's so up close and personal. It's amazing. I'm honestly jittery with excitement to see some of the wildlife that we have here, and I'm going to show you it all right now. The Barnegat Lighthouse is incredibly significant because of the very strong currents that are coming out of the Barnegat Bay out into the ocean, and they really need that light to navigate it. The first lighthouse that was built, which is actually not this one, was built in 1839, and that was about 40 feet tall and got eventually washed out by erosion. The second one that was built and was designed by Lieutenant George Meade, who was a general in the Union Army of the Civil War, was designed and built in 1859. This one is about 4 times the size of the original that was washed away, and it's about 163 feet tall. This has an incredibly strong lens that was built, and it can be seen of around 22 nautical miles away, and was stayed around until 1927 when it was decommissioned and there was a light boat that was put outside the inlet to be used. But it's still commemorated as an incredibly important historical site and was eventually relit and is still lit in 2008 so that we can remember how important this lighthouse was for the community. So, as you can see, the big significance of this is the amazing rock structures that we have here that are on this jetty that allow all these different types of benthic organisms to grow on this solid. So you can see lots of different kinds of algae. We have some rockweeds here. We have some sea lettuce. We also have some barnacles over here. We'll see some mussels in the future. There's lots of really good benthic organisms that provide shelter and food for different animals that like to hide within the crevices, whether it be fish, birds, other invertebrates, and it's really essential. And it's right on this crossroads between the bay and estuary of the Barnegat out to the Atlantic Ocean. So it's almost like a crossroads where you get a mix of different kinds of animals from inland and out in the ocean. So really great habitat. That's a really nice black scoter down there, but this guy is diving down onto the rocks to find those nice mollusks. And what they basically do is that they swallow those mollusks like mussels and clams, and they just digest that completely using different stones that are in their gizzard. So that's really essential for how they do it and digest those hard shells. So here you can see, right down here, we have some nice sea duck poop, which you can clearly see is not completely digested, but it's broken apart so it's more passable through the digestive system. And that's exactly what they do. They get crunched up by those stones within the gizzard, and they have enzymes that are able to break it down in the stomach, much better than we would ever do if we decided to eat shells out of nowhere. Over here, they just dove down, but we have some common eaters, and they do the exact same thing that the black scoters do. And they just dove down for some mussels that they've been grabbing off these rocks here. Oh, there they are, right up there. All these sea ducks come from as far north as the tundra. They spend this the spring and summer out there where they breed, and then they come down here for the winter and spend their time on the coastline just feeding off of the wonderful bounty of the New Jersey coastline, especially out on these jetties. These blue mussels are like the same blue mussels that you have on your plate when you're eating seafood, but they're incredibly special because they can really hold fast onto these rocks without having to worry about the tide taking them away. They have things called byssal threads that grow out of their shell that allow them to hang on really, really tight. And they also have their foot, which is creates a suction point where they're residing to prevent them from going away too. So they're incredibly strong on the rocks, and that's kind of why they get called mussels, because they're so tough. And that's exactly why many of these ducks have such strong big bills to pry them off the rocks. We have the low-lying sea lettuce that's right here, and then we also have rockweed. Now, rockweed is special because, like most of the seaweeds and kelps that are around here, they have gaseous bulbs that they have within their fronds that allow them to float near the surface. Once they're attached to the rocks, sometimes it could get really deep, and without the light penetrating, they can't perform photosynthesis. Remember, algae are not plants, they are protists. But they do perform photosynthesis, which means that they require that sunlight. So while having those little balloons of stuff in there, they can float right near the surface and perform that to get the energy and nutrients they need. There's others that are trying to grab the fish out here. We have some cormorants, double-crested cormorants. We have a bunch of loons out there, common loons and red-throated loons. And they're all going down into the crags to find those fish that are trying to hide from all these predators out here. They have nice sharp bills that can grab those fish really easily and hang on well. So those guys are out here and they're kind of just intermingling with these sea ducks. Oh, it's just landed up there. We got a nice peregrine falcon. Love these raptors. Just landed right at the tippy top. Very impressive. This thing was just chasing down another Cooper's hawk that was flying around. We have a bunch of birds here. Some of the specialties of this location. Right here on this sea lettuce sweet rock, there's a purple sandpiper. But further beyond that, we also have probably one of my favorite ducks of all time, the Harlequin duck. It literally looks like a living paint palette, and they're another kind of diving duck that loves to hunt down the mollusks and invertebrates that are on these shores. And for some reason, they just really love this location. And they're not really found in many other places around here, so it's really impressive to get to see them here. It's so close, just hanging out on these rocks. All right, this is definitely some signs that we have some crab-eating birds out here. Here's a nice shell of a rock crab, one of the most common invertebrates out here in the jetties. And you can see it's completely cleaned on the inside. This could have been done by anything though. This could have been a gull, maybe one of the ducks, but very common food source out here. So we're pretty close to the tip right now, but we have a nice flotilla of various sea ducks out here, mostly common eiders. We're keeping an eye out though, because there was a king eider that was spotted here recently, and it could be mixed up in this flock, and they're usually found really far up north. So Silas is getting a scan through all of them. We're hoping to find one somewhere out here. So here we are at the tip of Barnegat Lighthouse Jetty. Still looking at this large flock of common eiders. No luck of finding any kings out here. Alright, so we just finished walking the entire length of the jetty to go see all those birds, but now it's time to look at some cool invertebrates and shells that are remaining on the beach that just got washed up with the high tide. It's so cool. There's so many out here, and let's check it out. Alright, so this is why I love to come out on beaches, especially during the winter, because not many people are actually picking up stuff, and you get to see like the whole repertoire of different kinds of things that get washed up with the tide. We got a nice simple red beard sponge. It's very porous and allows flowing of water through it and grows on the rocks out here. We also have some mollusks here. Here's a nice northern moon snail. You can tell the difference between this and a shark eye moon snail by looking at looking for the eye, which is called. And also they have a nice direct hole into it instead of having a lobe, which the shark eye moon snail has. So we have two kinds of whelks here. We have our state shell, which is the knobbed whelk. You can see the knobs all along the sides. And then we also have a channeled whelk, which is completely smooth on the spiral. We have our favorite, the blue claw crab, which has the nice bright blue underside with the fins. And this one that doesn't swim, that has no fins, is the rock crab, which we saw earlier. See a bright purple underside. It's best to make sure you look at your shells before you pick them up, because sometimes there's living organisms on it. Here, if you look real closely, there's a flat-clawed hermit crab in here that's hiding, waiting for the tide to pull back up. We also have some other living organisms. We have a nice barnacle growing on the side, and some other slipper shells that are growing on this entire moon snail. So a lot of animals are using these shells for shelter, so it's best to make sure you check your shells before you take them home and you're taking away their habitat. As you can see, there are so many different kinds of organisms that are found within this transitional habitat between the ocean and the estuary, all of them finding what they need in this small habitat of Barnegat Lighthouse State Park. This makes it incredibly important to conserve these habitats and areas for a thriving ecosystem out here. Well, that's all I have for you today. Be sure to subscribe for weekly nature content. But until then, I'll see you out in the field. So as you can see, I'm losing it. What am I? Gas sacs.
Air sacs.
Air sacs.
One of those sacs.
All the above. Whatever it is, I don't know terminology.